Imagine entering the world not with an open horizon of mystery, but with one number carved into your soul, the exact date of your death. From the very first day, you wouldn't ask if, but when. That single piece of knowledge would shape everything about your life, from childhood to your final breath. Parents would hold their newborns differently. The first time they read that date, perhaps on a bracelet, a card, or whispered by some cosmic truth, their joy might be pierced by grief. Would birthdays feel like milestones of growth, or like grim reminders of a ticking countdown? Imagine a child growing up, already counting the days until their last. Some might learn to cherish each moment with a depth we can barely imagine. Others would grow restless, anxious, unable to ignore the looming shadow. Life ambitions would split into two paths. On one side, people would live recklessly, embracing every thrill and risk because fear of death would vanish. Why worry about a car crash or disease when you know it won't end you? On the other, some would shrink from life itself, their every choice paralyzed by the approach of that inevitable date. Would even education matter if you knew you'd die at 25? Would someone destined to live a century still waste time on meaningless pursuits? Or would they bear the heavy burden of long years ahead, pressured to achieve something monumental with all that guaranteed time? Love would change in haunting ways. Relationships would no longer be just about shared dreams, but about aligned timelines. Imagine falling in love with someone whose death is fated decades before yours. Would people avoid such unions, too afraid of guaranteed heartbreak? Or would they embrace them, choosing intensity over longevity, love compressed into the brief time they have together? Marriage vows like "till death do us part" would no longer carry uncertainty. Couples would walk into them knowing exactly how soon the end would arrive. Society itself would warp. Careers, politics, and power would bend under the weight of death dates. Leaders with long lifespans might dominate, their confidence unshakable because they know no assassination or illness could stop them prematurely. Soldiers who know they won't die young could fight fearlessly, transforming warfare into something even more terrifying. Meanwhile, those destined for short lives might be seen as expendable, their worth reduced to the brief candle they carry. Religion and philosophy would be shaken to the core. Faith often thrives in mystery, the unknown of death, the afterlife, the question of destiny. But what happens when destiny is no longer hidden? If the date of death is known, is free will an illusion? Do people still believe in a higher power, or does certainty erase hope? Perhaps new religions would rise, celebrating the beauty of knowing, teaching people how to live in peace with their countdowns. Or maybe people would rebel, desperate to break the chains of fate, seeking loopholes in a system that cannot be bent. Economies would look nothing like ours. Insurance industries would collapse, for what's the point of life insurance if your family already knows the day you'll go? Medicine itself would change. Why treat a deadly disease if it's not the cause of your fated end? Retirement planning would be precise, down to the month, with no fear of outliving your savings. Money might be spent differently. Why save for the future when you know exactly how much future you have? And then comes the question of crime and morality. A person with 24 hours left to live has nothing to lose. Would crime rates spike as the last day approaches for many? Or would society adapt with special protections, knowing who is living their final hours? Imagine a justice system where punishment had to be carefully calculated against an unchangeable timeline. Could someone even be sentenced to life in prison if their life is already scheduled to end in a week? On a personal level, the knowledge would alter how we see meaning. Some people might find peace in the certainty, freed from the fear of the unknown. Others would live in quiet torment, every passing day reminding them that the finish line grows closer. The strangest paradox is this: maybe the certainty of death would rob life of its mystery, or maybe it would sharpen every second into something unbearably precious. And then, the final day itself, the one day you cannot escape, no matter what choices you make. No accident could take you early. No miracle could extend you. Would you spend that last sunrise in peace, accepting what has always been destined? Or would you rage against the universe, desperate for a second more, even though you've known all along that the end was coming? So the question remains, would you want to know? If you could be given that one date, carved into your destiny with absolute certainty, would it free you or would it destroy you?